morning and welcome to Fox Philly Headline Makers. I'm your host Tyler Bachman, and I'm joined today here by an individual that I've not had the pleasure of having on our show yet here today. Sean Michels, Village President in Sugar Grove. Sean, thanks so much for coming out and speaking with us
today.
Thank
you, Tyler. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about a number of topics. Wanted to kind of get some catch up on things that have been going on in Sugar Grove the past year and looking towards the future, some of the ideas that we've got being discussed out there in the village. And first, we'll start with this, just because I'm sure you've seen this village change a lot over your time. You've been with the village for quite a few years as the village president. Tell us a bit about your background.
Well, I started as village president in 1999, and I was elected in 97 as a trustee. So 21 years now, and I've really enjoyed it. 18 years as village president. I have seen a lot. When I first became mayor, we were about 3,000 in population. Now we're about 10,000. We didn't have much of a retail corridor, and we've been able to develop that. So it's been a lot of fun. You know, I grew up just north of Sugar Grove, and so I've seen it since 1969 to present how much things have changed.
Sure.
But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm proud to have been the mayor and the leader, and hope to keep going. And people still, it's fun going to the grocery store or going out for a dinner, and people
Right.
come up and talk to you about things, and I'm able to give them good answers. So.
And I wanted to ask you about that growth a bit. Have you seen it as a good thing? I mean, Sugar Grove to me is such an interesting place because it is a community that was 3,000 people when it's grown substantially in that time.
One time I had coffee with the mayor, and I felt like Goldilocks. Somebody said I was growing it too fast, not fast enough, and just right. So, it depends who you talk to, but I think it's been good. It's been sustainable. We're growing about 2% a year in our current population forecast, and we haven't had the ebbs and flows. And even with the recession, in 2007, 8, 9, we cut our staff quite a bit, but we didn't have a lot of debt outstanding where we were able to, keep the village going without any increases in property taxes or other taxes. So we're able to cut some of our variable expenses and keep things going. So,
sure.
But it's been a conscious decision. You could always grow faster or slow down growth, but we wanted new development to pay for itself. Back in the early 2000s, Sugar Grove was getting hit up because of our permit fees. Well, we had about 7,000 lots that were being platted, and you figure about 3 people per house, so that was an increase of 21,000 people. So you need additional police cars, new village hall, police department, the whole works. And so we decided to raise the impact fees to get development to pay for itself. And then when things slow down, we reduce the fees. So, it's been an interesting time. I used to be in the banking world and did investments, and investments were great from 85 to 87. We had a big correction, and then it picked up again, and that's sort of like the village. You have your ebbs and flows.
Sure. Well, let's talk about a few of the recent topics around the village board. I know just earlier this week there was a vote by the village board. I think there was a denial of an annexation agreement for it was a trash company was coming in for a landfill, essentially, right?
It wasn't a landfill per se. It was an old gravel pit.
Okay. And
this company by the name of Heartland wanted to mine some existing gravel out of there and then fill it with clean fill. And CCDD, I think, is the acronym. But there was a lot of public concern about truck traffic close to a middle school, the dust that it was going to create, what the impact that it would have on a shallow aquifer that is close by.
Yeah.
So the process was to hold public hearings both at the Plan Commission and at the village board level.
Right.
And it ultimately did get voted down on Monday.
And the Plan Commission gave it a negative recommendation, is that right?
They did. So it's, again, a process, and there was the application to annex the property as ag, which the Plan Commission approved.
Okay.
And then the special use was for the remediation or the reclamation, and that got voted down. So then when it came to the village board, the board voted down unanimously.
And so what were some of the reasons that were given for why the village board voted it down?
Again, the concerns of the truck and traffic, the dust, the shallow aquifer, and there was no imminent tax benefits or revenue benefits to the village. So, and listening to the residents, so it was a culmination of a number of things.
Sure. Now,
This petitioner does have the right to go to the county.
Right.
The property is in the county, so they could go to the county and get approval there, and then they would have to follow county ordinances.
Okay. I was going to say, I didn't know if they had indicated, would there be a possibility of looking to locate somewhere else around Sugar Grove, or is that not something you've really heard from them?
It could, but you need to find an abandoned landfill or an abandoned gravel pit.
Yeah.
And they could do that. And it might be more tolerable in a different area where you're not conflicting with the middle school traffic.
Sure.
And there is a need for it. They have a current operation at Route 25 and Sullivan Road, and they seem to be doing very well there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people forget that Cantera and Winfield Road used to be a huge gravel pit.
Oh, did it?
And,
Okay, I didn't know that.
and then that got reclaimed, and look at the beautiful buildings that are there. So, you know, they are appropriate in certain spots.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's talk about a few other things you guys have been discussing. I think recently there was a look at your residential and your commercial permit fees in the village. Is that right?
We just talked about it Tuesday night. We're going to do that with the upcoming budget to see if our community development department's paying for itself. We had been outsourcing our building inspections. Now we brought a person in, and we think that'll actually help on the expense side, because with the outsourcing, you're paying per permit, and we've picked up with both commercial and residential. So by having it in-house, it'll be more of a fixed expense instead of a variable expense. And then our commercial fees, we probably have not been covering our consultants' review fees. We don't charge any impact fees on commercial property, but we do want to pay for our consultants.
Sure.
So.
Well, you said you're bringing it in-house, and so essentially it could be an increase in the fee, but to kind of cover your expenses for the way that you've made changes.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's quite a bit of talk at Springfield where our income revenue could be cut, or other taxes that we get from the state. And if that happens, then we're having a revenue problem, because we're not getting that. So, you know, a lot of people don't realize that there is a significant impact on what's happens in Springfield. A lot of times they'll pass unfunded mandates or cut the taxes or the share that the revenue that they share with the municipalities, and then the municipalities either have to fund those mandates or find a revenue source to make up for what's been cut at Springfield. So we've been able to work with our state and representative and senator to keep that in mind, that, you know, any impact does have an impact back here.
And so was that, excuse me, was that item then on first read this past time, and we'll come back the next meeting?
Yeah, it won't come back probably until end of April.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a process.
Yeah, got it. One thing you and I had talked about last year, and I didn't really ever get to follow up with you on it. I was curious what had happened. There was discussion about a special service area for the Sugar Grove, I'm trying to remember what that
Marketplace.
The marketplace,
where the jewel is. Well, that was very interesting. You know, again, can be as big a critic of government as anything, and the village did not want to get into the maintenance business. So, but the property around the Jewel and that commercial area in McDonald's was deteriorating, and there's a number of different property owners, and they were not talking at all. And we felt that it had a real negative impact on the village's image by having large potholes, street lights that were out, parkway trees that were dead, all within this property. So we took it upon ourselves to try to form a special service area where, if the property owners didn't take care of it, the village could assess a tax and do it. Well, it got the property owners to start talking, because they realized that it's going to cost more by the village. We have to pay prevailing wage for a lot of that work, and the property owners could go out and hire somebody at their own expense. Jewel has some maintenance crews that could come out and do some of the work where the expense wouldn't be as high. So anyways, we got people to come together, and we didn't have to impose a tax, and they're making the improvement, so it worked out for everybody.
It spurred a discussion and kind of worked itself out.
It did, yep, so it worked out for everybody.
Well, cool. I wanted to change gears a second here and kind of do a general overview of 2017 for the village. Specifically, a couple things I was going to talk about with you was things you've seen economically in the village the last year. Accomplishments for you guys that you've seen. I know one thing that we had a lot of buzz about when the story had broke is when Culver's was
Oh
coming
my
to
gosh,
town.
that's what I was going to bring up. Yeah, and it's a local family from Plano, Jeff Newkirk and his family, that are running the Culver's. And to this day, I'm still getting compliments. And it opened back in October. And
Yep.
my wife and I and daughter were there just last week, and they're bustling with teams coming in after games and families sitting down and having a nice sit-down dinner. So
Yeah.
it's really worked out well. So we've been very fortunate to have the Culvers come in. It probably had more buzz than a Dunkin' Donuts or a
Sure.
Starbucks. I was just really surprised. Again, the village had to give some minor financial incentives to help get the site developed. When it first was platted, there was no direct access off Division Drive on the west side. And to have a direct access, which Culver's wanted, it was going to run up some costs. So we helped them over a 4 or 5 year period. So, but it should more than pay for itself as time goes on.
Yeah.
But we have that, and then we were able to get 2 gas stations opened up. The one at Galena Boulevard and Route 47 had really been deteriorating over the years, and a group came in and fixed it up, opened it right before the new year in 2016. So it really, all of 2017 was the first year it was open.
Yeah.
They've been very successful.
And what were those 2 stations?
It was a Sitco, now it's a Shell.
Okay.
And then there's a BP up by Wabansie Community
Right.
College, and that's brand new. And they're doing a lot of diesel fuel sales up there because of the industrial park that they're by.
Sure.
So it's worked out very well. So
What about other accomplishments for the village board in 2017? Things that you were kind of proud of that got passed or that were discussed?
we're making great progress on the Route 47 I-88 interchange.
Sure.
We were able to have the final public hearing in December that was required for the interchange, and that's leading into the phase 2, and I think you'll probably want to talk about that more in depth, but that was important to keep that project moving as scheduled. And then they're making good progress on an assisted living facility that's going to have 70 units, and we hope to have that open later this year. We had Anytime Fitness come in and make a pitch, and they hope to break ground as soon as the weather breaks. So, you know, there are a lot of good retail items coming in, and Pulte came in and they took over a subdivision that had been stagnant with the recession and bond issues and all that. So they're, I think, sold 8 houses in the last 3 or 4 months. So we hope to see that pick up. But things are going pretty well around town.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? Let's chat about the Parkway interchange a little bit.
Okay.
That obviously has been something that's been discussed for a number of years now, and I know that we had done an interview a few months back, kind of regarding the process on that. 2020 is maybe a possibility that it could be completed. I know that it's a very loose timeline at this point, based off of how, because it's not just Sugar Grove. It's working with, I believe, IDOT and the tollway programs as well,
and King County. So
and King County, yeah.
So you're right. It's been a good partnership with Toll Highway and IDOT and King County. Everybody's really seen the economic benefit of having this interchange in, and the reduction of miles traveled by people. So you know, you're cutting emissions and that. So we just are winding up phase 1, and the Toll Highway is been a good partner because they don't have to go through the process that the Toll Highway or the IDOT has to go through. So anyways, the tollway is started phase 2, which is getting the engineers to come in, do the detailed engineering and the right-of-way acquisition. And there's only about 1 acre of property that is needed for the final design that was selected. So we're hoping that phase 2 will be wrapped up this year, and then we can go right into construction. One of the neat things is the toll highway is going to be resurfacing I-88 from Route 56 or Route 47, basically west out to Route 39, and that's about an $80 million project, but they're supposed to have a lot of additional material. So they're going to bring in that material and start constructing some of the ramps, which will help expedite the construction process. I
Sure.
think it could save 3 to 4 months of time during the construction. So even though the formal construction will not begin this year, we might see some activity there. And then construction, I would think, would take a year to a year and a half. So,
Right.
it is moving at a good pace. The tricky part is the financing.
Yeah.
When we first went out, and this is probably in 2012, it was only supposed to be a $20 million project.
Yeah.
It's now a
Incurred
$25 million
Correct.
project, so it's gone up about 20%. But we're working, right now I'm working on a letter to address to the toll highway, IDOT, and King County to see if everybody can up their contribution
Right.
towards this project.
And I just was going to ask, overall, at the end of the day, what is the village's portion of the expense expected to be on the project, do you think?
It'd be a little less than $2 million.
Okay.
Yep. And then the county is about matching the village, and then the toll highway is about 60%, we're hoping, and then IDOT would be about 25%.
Okay. And so what pot of funds are those coming from for the villages? Did you go offer a bond or something on this?
No, we'll work with the property owner. They have some interest in getting it developed, and they own about 700 acres around the interchange. So probably in lieu of tap-on fees or something, we'll ask them to front the money and then give them credits towards future impact fees.
Gotcha. And so I wanted to ask too, I know that you talked about there was a public hearing a little while back on the project.
Yes.
Some discussion I think was had, residents that live right in that corridor. What kind of studies, and I'm assuming when the engineering studies are done, they look at all of this, but the traffic in that area, how residents will be affected right on that spot.
Well, as chance would have it, that's the area I grew up in,
Yeah.
and I was riding my bike on I-5 before it
Right
became
before it was
I-88.
Sure.
Yeah, before any cars were on that. But it was a concern of all the neighborhoods that are right there,
Yeah.
and IDOT IDOT did a fantastic job of listening to the residents' concerns. They shifted the center line for 47 a little to the east, which will allow all the roads that come into 47 to still maintain their full access, except for one road, and that's Finley. And what they've decided to do, and this is just south of I-88, is to basically do a Michigan U, where people would head south, get in the left turn lane, and then make a U-turn to go back north.
Yeah.
And since it's just residential, it should be doable for people, and they don't have too many north turns at this point in time, so it should work out. And the residents weren't happy, but they were pleased that at least they can get out and maintain their normal daily
Right.
traffic routes.
Well, and for your village, and really, I guess even further on up towards Elburn and further on than that, it's got to be a huge deal for you, obviously, to have this project, because it's going to be able to allow people to have easier access to get into your village.
Yeah, it is. And we're getting some great cooperation with the village of Elburn. They recently passed a resolution in support of the interchange, and we thank them, because 12 years ago we didn't have that type of support. So it's nice that we're all on the same page. And economically it should bring in some commercial uses, which will help diversify our tax base and in the long run reduce our real estate taxes.
Has there been any, and maybe we don't have the numbers off the top of the head, but any indication about the usage per day, what that might look like for people getting off there?
I don't have those numbers, but that was a bone of contention over the last 2 years doing the phase one, is how to design it. And you don't want to design it where it's obsolete right away and you have to make more.
Sure,
and
just
more
like anything, you need to
expensive.
plan for the future and down the line.
So I think we were using 2040 traffic counts, and the ultimate design is to have a cloverleaf if you're heading northbound to go around and then head west. And what that does is it frees up space on the bridge where they can have longer left turn lanes to head east. So you have to think the whole project through, but all in all, it's a good project. It'll last for 2040 at least, if not longer. And it does not require a lot of bridge work, which is very expensive. So
very good.
Yeah, so they have anticipated large traffic numbers.
Sure. Well, very good. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back with Village President Shawn Michels.
The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. They're my savior. My name is Lola Silvestri. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at America Let's Do Lunch.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Headline Makers. Tyler Bachman back with you. And again, I'm joined by Sugar Grove Village President Shawn Michels this morning. We've been talking about a lot here today. Really, that Sugar Grove Parkway interchange is going to be a big deal for the village, and we'll see how that progresses here and look forward to seeing more on it. I wanted to also talk about another kind of roadway project, and that is 47, kind of from Yorkville heading north through your village and on up. I know for us here, we had just covered a story. The city of Yorkville had just sent off a letter to IDOT kind of urging funding for Galena and 47 at that intersection in particular, but then also the full funding for the widening project. So tell us a bit about the widening project, as that obviously impacts your village as well. And I'm sure you guys are also in support of seeing that.
Oh, we are. And I appreciate Yorkville getting on board and helping out and passing a resolution. I think it was last week that they passed that, and been in touch with Mayor Galinsky and Alderman Frieders about it. And I've been working with Senator Oberwise and Representative Wheeler about it. We need to put a lot of pressure on IDOT. This project started in 2010 with the phase one, and like the I-88 47 interchange, there's 3 phases, and phase 1 is general engineering and coming up with designs, and you have a lot of public hearings, and for this process to be in its 8th year is just ridiculous. So through our state reps, we were able to get IDOT to commit to a public hearing. I think it's May 30th, which will help conclude the phase 1. There is a caveat that they need to do a mussel study, and the mussel study can only be done when the water level is low and it's warm, so that puts it probably sometime in June or July. And then they'll do that study, and if they find no mussels, then we can roll right into phase 2.
And where is that at exactly, I guess?
It's in the Rob Roy drainage ditch.
Okay, yeah, because that runs through there.
It does. It parallels 47. So that could hinder things, but we had a similar issue looking for an orchid, didn't find an orchid, but that held the one of our projects up 9 months. So at least we're able to get IDOT to commit to having the public hearing and not starting phase 2 till after the muscle study. With the new fiscal year coming up at the state, they are supposed to put phase 2 funding into this next fiscal year's budget, and that would be good. But phase 2 on a complicated project like this will probably take easily 3 years. They're going to go from Cross Street and Sugar Grove south to Galena Road. They feel that's where a large amount of the traffic is, and it doesn't make them, but there's only one train tracks underpass that they have to take care of instead of 2, which is probably the most expensive part of the whole project is doing those underpasses. So if we can get into phase 2 and then look for phase 3 funding, construction funding, as we move forward, that would be great.
And we're talking about is it a lane on each side of the roadway? Is that right?
Well, Route 47 is considered a strategic rural route, or the SRA route, and it has some acronym, but it'd be a divided 4-lane road, similar to what it was constructed south from Caton Farm Road down to Morris. So it'd be quite wide. It'll probably be over 100 feet in easement or right-of-way that they'll need. And I don't know what the plans are, if they'll continue to use the 2 lanes as there, or if they'd have to reconstruct all 4 lanes.
Well, and I mean, it's a major artery for travel, absolutely. I mean, especially the other day, I was driving out of work here and had gone on that stretch, and especially during snow, for example. I mean, the traffic, especially during when people are getting out of work, it's an interesting drive you have to go through there. So I'm sure your traffic count is way over where it should be for that kind
Mayor
of road.
Galinsky and I, we have quite a few stats. He talks about the accidents, which there have been some serious accidents, fatalities, but I talk about the traffic, that there's over 20,000 cars a day using that stretch, where when I brought up the widening of 47 south of Yorkville from Caton Farm Road down to I-80, there's only 5,000 cars, and it's just ridiculous. That down there they built it, and you don't only have the construction costs, but you have the maintenance costs, and they could have reallocated that money north, but that's a whole nother story. I can get going on that.
Sure. Let's talk about this. We've got a few minutes left here. I wanted to chat with you about your goals for this coming year on the village board, and then maybe 5 years in advance here as well, if there's any long-term goals you guys have in mind.
Yeah, I'm intrigued because I've been reading that Washington is looking at an infrastructure bill. So there might be some funding for some road networks that we could expand on with Yorkville and Montgomery. We have Gordon Road, which is on our far east side. It divides Aurora and Sugar Grove and stops at Prairie Street. But if we could extend that south all the way to Route 30, that could help alleviate some traffic on both Orchard and Route 47. So we're working on that right now. I just talked to our consultant engineers to do some exhibits and maybe get some meetings going with the other towns. So I'd like to see that. Obviously, the Route 47 I-80 interchange.
Sure.
So, again, the devil's in the details, and once we get that going, then we need to get the water and sewer there. So we're working with Fox Metro, our water reclamation district, on how we can best serve that property as far as sewer. And then water, there's a lot of aquifers up there, but do we set up a separate well or tie it into our own system? So that'll be important. Again, commercial, getting the assisted living opened up. And then I've been trying to get a hotel and some additional restaurants coming to town, more sit-down restaurants. And a group just bought 40 acres on the southwest corner of Sugar Grove Parkway, or Route 47, and Galena Boulevard. So we're working with them to get them to bring in some additional retail.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for joining me today.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler.
And you have a great day as well.
Okay, thank you.